Hello again. It's Tracy and it's Art Books for Creativity. Thanks for joining me today. I am going to share with you some books that still have acrylics for the medium, but these are all very much in the genre of mixing media. And I like them because, I may not necessarily do this kind of mixed media, but what I like to get out of books like this is color ideas, design ideas, even just mixing different materials, because I sometimes will mix things with my acrylic paints, and I'm always looking for something to give me a prompt, and I think prompts are a really great thing to have. So I'm going to start with these. The first three books are all by one artist, and she's somebody that I used to really follow back in the day, about 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago actually, and her name was Cheryl Kahn, and I think she has passed away a few years ago, but she had a wonderful little empire going. She did a lot of work with Jacquard. Rupert Gibbon and Spider is the company name, but they make Jacquard products, and they have wonderful metallic acrylic paints and all kinds of great fabric paints and dyes. And I actually buy my silk dye through Jacquard, and it's their red label dye. So if any of you are silk painters out there, that's who makes it, at least the American silk dyes. So her name is Cheryl Kahn. I have three of her books. They are mixing the media, but what I think is so awesome about Cheryl is she had such a distinct style, and she and her husband had their own stamp company called Impress Me Now Stamp Company. And I even had a whole bunch of her stamps back in the day, because there's so many of them are petroglyphs, and I love petroglyphs. And but I think what really gets me going with Cheryl's work is the color, the patterns, the layering that you see in every one of these books, and the fact that she is putting all of these projects on paper or fabric or jewelry. She's making all kinds of neat things. She's even got a section on air dry clay, shrink plastic, and I think even polymer clay, but she uses the mica powders, the acrylic paints, the Lumiere paints, which are acrylic, but they've got a heavy mica load, so they've got a really wonderful look to them. And the three books that I have in my collection that are Cheryl Kahn's is this one here called Creative Mixed Media. These were all published, let's see, a couple of these might even be Northlight books, but this one here was published by Martingale and Company, and it was from 2010. So this was a fairly new book for her, but you can see here just in the pages where she's got the chapters, what wonderful colors that she puts together. She really understands how to put your complementary colors and then add some nice hot colors. I've always been a big fan of petroglyphic art, so there's something that looks a little like petroglyph image there. She's got a whole list of supplies, of course, and then at the back of the book she has links on and resources where you can buy those supplies. She is probably, I would imagine, very sorely missed by the companies that she worked with, and artists like me who just found a lot of what she did very inspirational. In fact, I even took a 2 or 3 day workshop with Cheryl up in Denver many years ago, probably in the early 2000s, because I just found her to be just so exciting and supportive. Here's another good example. So this book is called Creative Mixed Media: Paint, Print, Stitch, Stamp, and Embellish. It'll give you ideas for days on end. The second book of Cheryl's that I have is called Creative Embellishments for Paper, Jewelry, Fabric, and More. This one is published by Martingale Press, and this one is published in 2007. And again, you can see some of the projects that you're going to get into, including stitched dolls, painting the cloth first before putting them together. Lots of fun beadwork. Let's find another good example. Here is a repetitive designs using Cheryl's own stamps. Now I bet you can probably go on to Etsy and find some of Cheryl's old stamps and buy some of those rubber stamps. They really are the funnest, and they're very heavy duty and thick, and she's even got stamps that are very, very big, and you can cut them apart or you can just use them as a big block and you do block stamping with them. So let's find something else I can show you. Here's a good example of, you know, just like a doll and necklaces that she is shown and gotten very creative with. And these supplies that she says, you know, not expensive. I do think you can find some interesting things and use some found stuff. Here's the creative paper clay. It's an air dry clay, I believe. I've never used it, but I've known friends who have. So just real inspiring. Lots of little, if you love to do like little handwork with your art, add beadwork and fibers, you know, this will be the book for you. Okay, next book by Cheryl Kahn. This one is called Creative Stamping with Mixed Media Techniques. This one also is probably, oh no, Northlight Books. I knew that Northlight had published some of her books. So this is Northlight Books, and this one is 2003. So this is the oldest of the three Cheryl Kahn books that I have. And this one really is about using the stamps repetitively over paper, fabric. Here's a page right here with some of the stamping examples. And she's got some very creative things in here. She looks like she's probably tie-dyed a piece of fabric and then gone over it with some stamps. I think we were all inspired by Cheryl back in the early 2000s, you know, just yummy colors, yummy color combinations, and some great ideas and multi-layering. Let's see, I want to find another good example. Here's something that starts out as an abstract, lots of layering going on. Lots of great bright colors. I think Cheryl lived in California. She was definitely influenced by the Great Desert Southwest and probably, you know, just the climate and everything in California. Here's a lantern that she made. So lots of fun ideas. If you are looking for some things that are a little out of the box, these books by Cheryl Kahn will be very inspiring for you. And again, like I've said in every video, I would search for used books on Amazon as well as thrift books, and then even on Etsy. You know, there's some people on Etsy that sell used art books, so that might be a good spot to look for some of these books. Next book is called The Painted Paper Art Workshop, Easy and Colorful Collage Paintings by Elizabeth St. Hilaire. Collage has always been really popular, and it's a great way to either use old papers that you might have in your studio or even create your own papers that you want to collage. What I love about collage, and I still see a lot of collage art for sale in galleries and online, is it reminds me in some ways of quilting with fabric. So if you look at some of these paintings that she has back here. But what I love about this book is in this one, she is going over teaching how to paint your own papers so that what you're doing is truly original. And she's got a lot of different techniques in here for getting certain results with the painted paper. And she has layering and texturing. She has stenciling. She has a section on the paints, maybe different papers that you want to use. She has some great suggestions for papers. She even has some things that you may want to put in, some vintage papers and some found papers like that. Maybe they need to be part of the element of your painting. They add a little more interest to them. I actually was thinking about cutting apart some old paintings that I was getting rid of and repurposing them and collaging them, but I had put so many layers on the canvas that even just cutting through them, it was just too hard. So I would kind of recommend, if you're going to do some collaging, I would definitely do it with the paper, but you could collage them maybe onto a substrate like canvas or cradled wood boards. Here she's using a brayer and she's going over a stencil. Some of your stencils can be found stencils. They can be, old doilies and fabric that you can just push the paint right through it. And she's even got a shoe that she put some paint on the bottom of that shoe and then stamped it just because the bottom of the shoe had such an interesting design to it. So she has many, many examples in here, all these wonderful things that you can do to get different looks for your paper. Then she gets into the process of creating a collage. There's one of her great cows there. And here she really gets into teaching you how to work with your reference photos, understanding composition, understanding when you're putting a lot of these different papers together, different colors together, how to create a range of values with the paper and the different colors, and also how to create a sense of depth in the collaged painting, because you do want, if it's an animal or even a tree or something, maybe a landscape, you want what's forward to stand out as forward and what needs to recede to the background. So she's got some very good advice in here. Good example here of this wonderful cow really coming out of the painting, but the background is at the right perspective, showing the size of the cow in relation to the field it's standing in. And she's also got some advice on varnishing these once you're done, so I like that a lot. And then we get back to the back, and she's got some wonderful examples of some finished work by her, and there is just so much inspiration in the gallery section of this book. Really kind of amazing what you can do with collaged papers, painted beautiful colors. And this one was published by Northlight Books, Elizabeth St. Hilaire. And the year that this one was published, let's see, they usually put it at the back, 2016. So really not that old of a book, 10-year-old book. Great, great book. And then finally, my last book for today's video is another one by Sandra Duran Wilson. This one is called Awakening Your Creative Soul. This is a whole year, one project a week of different projects that you can do to discover your own artistic journey, with great projects and full lists of of supplies that you're going to need, good photography and instructions. And Sandra is just one of the more creative people that I have followed and found on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. She travels all over teaching workshops. And I don't think she's doing any more USA workshops, but she's, if you want to take a fabulous vacation over to Europe and do an art workshop, this would be a lot of fun. Here's a piece that inspired by a circle, but it's a great book. And if you're just on that, maybe you just want to change out what you've been doing, or you've just recently retired and you're looking for something to kind of help you ease into a creative practice, this would be a lot of fun. I love this one on this page. This is really great. But she's got all kinds of wonderful advice in here and different prompts. And, just open up your mind and explore what it is that you want out of creating things and expressing yourself. And that's really, at the end of the day, what it's all about, because everybody has an artist inside of them that wants to get out and put it out there on any kind of canvas or wood, or maybe you're a fiber artist, maybe you are a quilter. You can get lots of ideas from this. I may not necessarily myself work with all these different materials, but what I look for in a lot of these books is prompts, ideas, colors, and patterns that help me move forward with my own art career as well. So I hope that you enjoyed this video today. Give me a like and subscribe to this channel. I will be having lots more videos coming up, including videos about different art movements, different artists, and other materials to paint with, and some great books that share it all. So thanks for joining me, and have a great week. Bye-bye now.